I have to give full credit to Joe Hall for the inspiration of this podcast, so it was a privilege that he agreed to join me on the first episode. I've known Joe for almost 20 years after my family moved onto the same road. Not long after we moved in, I was out knocking on neighbours' doors to see if their grass needed cutting, a ploy for me to earn some cash. Joe took pity on me and would pay me astronomical amounts of money to do so. As the years rolled on, we would exchange fleeting pleasantries, but it wasn't until I moved back from Australia in December of last year I decided to knock on his door like I did all those years ago to see if he fancied a cup of tea and a chat. It became clear very quickly that Joe had a special story to tell, so we arranged to sit down together and connect the dots of his life. With almost 90 years worth of a CV, we covered topics such as signing for Newcastle Football Club and then signing a professional football contract with Fulham that brought him down to London. Serving in the British Army in Kenya, the recipe for a successful marriage, how to be a good father, the loss of his son at 34 years old, what he hopes for future generations, regret, kindness, happiness, death, and my lord, the man has a sense of humour. Joe is a complete inspiration and he has set the bar incredibly high. It's time to connect the dots. Joe, thank you for agreeing to have this conversation. It's a privilege that you're the first episode of connecting the dots. So I'm really grateful that we've been able to do this. I guess we'll get stuck in. So I'd love for you to take me back to, I guess, your earliest memories of like your childhood and back in, it was Durham, right?
Yes, certainly. I was born in Durham City, a place called Giles Gate, 10th of April 1934. My dad worked on the railway. My mother was a housewife. I was the middle of 9 children.
Wow. What was that like?
Tough going, we struggled for a long time. We moved from this house in Giles Gate to a council estate, Sherburn Road estate, just outside of Durham. I went to the school, Winnie Hill Secondary Modern, where I was prefect and school captain of the football team. When I left school, I worked in a builder's, at 15, I worked for a builder's merchants for a length of time. Then I moved on to an engineering company for about a year. I played for a very good junior team called Sherburn Village Juniors, who were one of the best teams in County Durham. And I played, Newcastle came. It was quite a strange story because I went to a local cinema one night and I was sitting in the cinema and then notice came up on the screen, would Joe Hall please go to reception? And I went out there and it was the Newcastle manager and the chief scout sitting in a limousine. And they said, we've come to sign you, not as a professional, but as an amateur player, because I was only 16.
Mm. And what? Did you? What year were you born?
1934. So I would have been 16
Okay.
when they came Newcastle.
So 1950.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I signed for them and played about 6 games in their third team. I couldn't sign professional till I was 17. So I played these six odd games in their third team. And then along came the Fulham scout and he said, we want to sign you straight away professional on the dot.
And was that a done thing back then?
There, yes, because I didn't go for trials or things like that. They thought I was good enough straight away to sign professional. So I signed. And in those days, you got a £10 signing on fee. My mother took the signing on fee and I never saw it again. So that was it. I signed. So I was 17. So I left the junior team in Durham and came to Fulham.
What was the feeling like when you got pulled out of that cinema?
Well, I couldn't just believe it. I mean, the manager, I forgot his name now, but the manager came out and shook hands and the scout and said, I just couldn't believe it because I never had ambitions to be a professional footballer. because I started late in life playing.
How old are you?
I was maybe 15
Oh
when I
wow!
started serious football with this junior team in Durham. So I was quite late.
And how did that come about?
Um, well, one of my school friends was playing for them, and I wasn't playing for anyone. And he came and says, "Come to the Sherburn Village Juniors and see what you think." And I came, and they were coached by a Scottish international chap. And he said, "Fine." So I went straight in the team, and I used to play in those days number 9, the striker.
Mm.
And I scored a lot of goals as a number 9. And Fulham told you the history. They came and
Yeah.
saw me, and that was it. Signed professional football, and I came to Fulham with Sir Bobby Robson, who was a year ahead of me, and he came and he showed me all the ropes and all that, and I started off in the junior team.
I guess before we go on,
But
for anyone who doesn't know who Sir Bobby Robson was,
the
can you
ex,
give a
the
summary?
Sir Bobby Robson, who was in later life became the England football manager, but he played. He was played number 8 at Fulham, and myself for a while was understudy to him and Johnny
Mm.
Haynes, because I played number 8, which was an inside forward, which would be sort of midfield play today.
And Johnny Haynes is a Fulham legend,
Johnny
right?
Haynes was a legend. He was at the time he was the greatest forward in England, not for scoring goals, which he could do, but he was the greatest passer of a football in England.
Mm.
You couldn't coach him because he was so advanced for his age. Everyone we tried to copy him, but we couldn't.
So
But he was a nice guy.
so before you, sorry to interrupt. So before you made the move from Durham down to London, who would you say was probably the biggest influence on those early years of your life? Who comes to mind straight away?
Well, the only person who took a lot of interest was my brother John. I didn't have any sort of idols or people I knew. I didn't know anyone. He was always my sort of taking me here, there. I was a Sunderland fan when I was a boy.
Mm.
I'd have liked to have signed for Sunderland, but never happened. But my brother John, but and when I came to Fulham, I didn't. There was 4 other northern boys there, and we all had this peculiar accent. But I became I like the setup at Fulham, the juniors with Johnny Haynes and Roy Dwight, who was Elton John's cousin,
Wow.
Tosh Chamberlain, Tony Barton. They were all quite good junior team, and we gelled. We all liked each other, young boys of 17. In fact, Johnny Haynes was 16, and he worked in the office as a clerk with the club secretary, doing all the wages, all that sort of thing.
So how did it work? So you moved. So how old were you when you moved down to London?
I was 17.
And what was that must have been a massive
I
move.
was I when we got off the train at King's Cross from Durham, it was Robson, me, and another boy, another
Mm.
lad, and I'd never been away from Durham, so we got on the bus, and Robson was telling us what this place was, and all the lights of Piccadilly and through Knightsbridge on the on the bus to Fulham, and then I went into digs, and I had to share a room with another Fulham boy who was there,
Mm.
which was quite frightening. And I thought to myself, this is too much. I'd rather go home. So it was scary because I didn't have any relations or anyone to
Mm.
talk to really. So I just,
How did you overcome it?
well, I quickly liked London. I used to go off and go to places. And the boys, we got mixed, had a group of lads. We used to go to different cafes after training and eat cakes, things we shouldn't eat, but we did.
Mm.
So I just, the junior team, we all got together. So I had friends, but I still missed home because I didn't.
Mm. What did you miss? What was it that you missed about it?
Well, the family really, because being in digs, it's quite a lonely life. I stayed out the digs as much as possible. I used to finish training
Yeah.
and then go up to town somewhere, do a cinema or something.
Mm.
But I was a bit of a loner, I think, because all the other boys lived in London or near the ground, and so they went off to their families. So
Mm.
it was quite a hard life, really. But
So did you spend a lot of time on your own?
yes, I
Yeah.
did. Sadly, I did. But
And did you? did it get to a point where you enjoyed it, or
No, I think I enjoyed it, and I quickly adapted to the culture of the boys and clothes, and we were all smart, nice, going to shops and markets and buying clothes, and that was my passion. So after a while, when I went back to Durham, I was a different person. All my school friends, I'd moved on. I'd moved sort of like up the ladder, sort of thing. And
and how did that? I guess on two fronts. How did that make you feel? And then was there ever any resistance from others who you had moved on, and people were still
not really, because I didn't stay too long. When I got home, I was only short visits, and then I had to come back, because the club would only allow you maybe a weekend sometimes when there was no matches on. So it was only a quick visit and back, so I didn't really mix too much with them, just to see my mother, really.
Yeah.
And but I never, once I'd been in London I never really wanted to go back.
Yeah.
It was only for my mother, but I'd moved on to a different lifestyle and everything.
And your brother John, did he stay based up
in Durham?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I sent all the information, programs, and any details I'd send him, so he could show his friends what was going on in my career. So he was the only one who was interested.
And then so you were playing for that junior team, and tell me a bit more about joining the army.
Oh yes. Well, I was at Fulham, and you knew that everyone at the age of 18, male, had to join the army for 2 years, compulsory. So I was living in digs, and then I was called up, and I joined the Royal Army Medical Corps, which all the footballers seemed to go in that sort of regiment, because they didn't do any hard training, and you could get time off to play football. So naturally, when you went in, you were being a professional footballer, you had VIP treatment.
Yeah.
So I was stationed at Aldershot for a while, doing my basic training. Then I moved to the military hospital at Woolwich, Royal Herbert Military Hospital, and we had an exceptionally good football team there. And in the army in those days, every sort of company could only have 5 professionals in their team.
Right.
All over Great Britain and Germany, the army teams, they had the British Army Cup, which was something special. But our team at Woolwich, we had Harry Hooper of West Ham, exceptionally good right winger. Andy Malcolm, who played for West Ham and Chelsea. Mike Powell, the centre half, played for Queen's Park Rangers. And there's myself and Tommy Cronin from Fulham, another Fulham.
Wow.
Our 5. And we had our little jobs in the hospital, but.
And what kind of jobs were you doing?
Well, I was in the library.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't on the wards.
on the front line.
I wasn't on the front line in the wards, because there was all lady doctors and all, so we had to salute them and those things. So 2 of them were in they had a little sports shop, where you had to get, not selling stuff, but just you got to borrow it to go training, or the little shop. And then I moved to the sergeant's mess, which was a special. We had to go there, and I serving the food on the tables and doing the tables. And I was there with a chap, and he was a professional dancer. He'd appeared on shows in the West End, so he used to, when the music came on the radio.
This is in the UK?
Yeah. Still in the UK, in this hospital. And he used to dance around the tables, and I thought, God, but so we were mixed up. And then this is an interesting part. I was at their Woolwich, and I was there for about a year, a bit more maybe. And they had a notice board where every day put something new on the notice board. And I went there and had a look. I never looked, and my name was on the notice board, Private J Hall, posted to Kenya, East Africa.
What was your initial reaction?
I nearly died. I said, no way. So I immediately skipped something in the story, but I have to go back to. I immediately rang the manager at Fulham.
And you're 18 at this point.
18.
Yeah.
No, wait a minute. Yes, I was 18. I rang the manager at Fulham and told him about it. And he said, Joe, he said, we have connections at the War Office and we could get you off, but I think it would be a great opportunity to go because it will never happen again. So that was the end of story. Next thing is I'm being shipped off to East Africa. So after a while, a few weeks later, I was in a coach going to Stansted Airport. We stayed overnight in it was a Goodge Street. It was a tube station which would be converted into a barracks where you could right down inside.
Wow.
It had beds and all things so that soldiers could stay there before they were transported somewhere else, you know. So anyway, a couple of days later, we marched out and went to Stansted and got on the plane, which all these troops, the plane was a propeller-driven thing with wooden seats in there, hard wooden seats.
Slightly different.
No food served in there.
No first class.
No first class. And our first stop was Malta. We stopped overnight. And then
How long did it take to get to Malta?
Yeah, well, we're talking quite a long time. No, the story is Malta, and then I went next day somewhere else. It was four stops to get to Nairobi in East Africa, which took about 3 days, whereas now it takes you 8 to 10 hours on a jet, you know. So it took us 3 days to get there.
Gosh.
So when I got there, there was a hospital in Nairobi, military hospital, and I went there. Arrived there, and within hours, they said, "Wait, can you play on the team tomorrow? Can you do this and do that?" And I said, "I have to get acclimatized because it's a climate. You've got to get acclimatized. You know, it's a different air breathing." And so that was there.
It was warm, I imagine.
Yeah.
So how go on? Did you remember what you were going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say to you when I was at Woolwich. The Queen's coronation was on that year. It was 1953.
Wow.
And I was one of about 12 selected to go on parade on the Queen's coronation. I've got a medal, actually.
Amazing.
And I'll just carry on this. Could I switch back to this coronation then?
Yeah.
So I was selected to go on the parade or at the Mall in Maureen can get that for you. Can you, Maureen? That medal, the Queen's.
Which one is it?
I'm not open to feel with your.
That's all right.
And I had to go on this. Shall I carry on?
Yeah.
I had to go on this on parade in the Mall in London. And little did I know that Maureen later told me that she and some friends had camped out in the Mall. we didn't know each other because we hadn't met anything. And later we got married, you know. And met up.
Gosh, it's funny.
What a coincidence! That couldn't happen in a million years.
Wow. And what was the experience? What was it like in the parades?
It was.
Gosh, it's got some weight to it, hasn't it?
Yeah, we were. Well, I've been in medics. I had all of my medical equipment, you know, special uniform and all sorts of things. But I was just on parade, sort of going up and down the street in case anyone fainted or a soldier got.
Or if Maureen saw you and fainted.
Fell in love with her.
Who's this handsome chap?
A past that, you know, with this lovely uniform on.
Yeah.
So that was quite an interesting experience.
Yeah.
But then I carried on. That's when I went to Kenya after that, you know.
Yeah. And how long were you out in Kenya for?
Well, after I was arriving in Nairobi, I was shipped to up country near Mount Kenya to join the 1st Battalion, the Royal Northumberland Fusiliers, the fighting.
Oh wow! Oh wow! So this is your medal from your time in Kenya.
Yeah.
Wow. How do you feel about having these medals?
Well, it's quite an achievement, you know. It's quite that I've done something special, isn't it? It's quite a.
Wow. Army East Africa Association football.
Oh, I haven't come to this bit yet.
No,
have I?
yeah. Carry on.
So I was shipped up country, and I joined this infantry battalion, fighting battalion, and we were living in tents out in the wilds. And but they had football out there in Nairobi, very big, and the Queen was coming to Kampala in Uganda on tour with the Duke of Edinburgh. So the British Army decided they wanted to send a team to Kampala to play the local teams while the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh were there.
Yeah.
So we had trials in Nairobi. It was England versus the rest. And naturally, there was me and a Newcastle, only two professionals and a Newcastle player. We played for England and we played the rest. But anyway, cut a long story short, I was picked to go on this tour with a British Army team, British Army East Africa. And we set off. Anyway, something came through that the Queen couldn't come out, or something was cancelling the tour. The King died. The King died, so the Queen couldn't come on tour. So we set off by coach, and all the team, not me personally, had to carry rifles because it was so dangerous going up country and on a coach. Anyway, so we went to Kampala, stayed in a hotel, and we instead of playing top class teams, we played African teams, who some of them played without boots.
Wow.
And we got beaten by.
I was about to ask you.
Yeah, we got beaten. I think it was 4-2. We got beaten by Africans.
They must have been pretty handy.
Good standard. Anyway, we just played a few games and then we came back to Nairobi.
What an achievement!
But every and then I got back and carried on at work. But every so often we had matches between the different army teams because there was army regiments from Ireland and Wales. And
did that ever get feisty?
Yes, the Black Watch, the famous Scottish regiment, were out there. Who when you had to look at them, they would want to fight you. So we played that. It was always a big occasion. Military band marching up and down the pitch at half time. Wow. So we played matches because I was attached to this military. I told you company. Fine. And they used to send a jeep for me, and the guys used to say, "Oh, look at him! We are
special treatment."
Yeah, special treatment. Your jeep would come to take me off to play, you know. So I, when I say I had a wonderful life, I did, you know, I do because I was playing a lot of football.
So special.
Yeah, it was. It was. In fact, when the time came to leave, we had a get together, and one of the officers came up to me. And he said, "Joe." Normally they wouldn't say Joe, but he said, he's a football man. He said, "Joe."
What would they say, your surname?
Yeah. He said, "Would you like? Are you going back?" I said, "Yes, I'm going back to leave the army." He said, "If you stayed in Africa," he says, "we could get you a job as a physical training instructor. You could stay in the army as a physical training instructor."
Yeah.
He says, "You probably get promoted and obviously more money." I said, "Look, sounds good." I said, "But I'm sorry, but I'm under contract at Fulham. I can't break my contract. I'm in contract to go back and play."
Yeah.
That was end of story. So I came back to England
and so when you returned, tell me. So how old were you when you returned?
With 20.
Okay. Oh, of course, you did your.
Sorry?
You did your 2 year stint.
2 years, yeah. I was finished 2 years. It was roughly a year in Africa and a year in England, which was good in a way because I'd never have that experience in a million years. Because staying in England was pretty boring all the time, you know.
And then how old were you when you met Maureen?
20, same year. The story.
November.
Shall I tell the story?
If you want to. 20th of November. I'm not going to.
No,
20th of November.
Good with dates, so.
20th of November in.
What year?
54. 54, 50, when I came up, when I was demobbed, the army finished. And I went back to Fulham that season in November. And then Maureen's friend who lived in Chelsea was going with a Fulham player. And they met up, Maureen and a friend. And the friend said to Maureen, "Would you like to come out with us on Saturday?" And we're going to Hammersmith Pally, which was the place in London, the dance. It was a dance, big. So Maureen said, "Well, yes." So I arrived with Robson, Sir Bobby Robson, myself, and another guy in this block of flats in Chelsea where Maureen lived. And we were waiting downstairs, and then this lady came down. She walked across, and I said to Robson, if you think I'm going out with her, you're mistaken. I'm not. It was Maureen's mother came down to check me out.
No.
Yeah, it was Maureen's mother came.
Yeah.
And then sort of a few minutes later, Maureen came out all dressed up. Now
So she must have approved.
yeah, oh yes, she did. But yeah, because anyway, we went to the, Maureen's quite a glamorous girl, as she still is. But we went to Hammersmith Pally, and then next day, Maureen was a member of Chelsea Supporters Club netball, and she was playing netball up at where the Chelsea pensioners ground is, Royal Hospital grounds in Chelsea. So I went up on the Sunday to go and see Maureen play and all that. And then she took me back to tea at her house.
With her mum?
Yeah.
Ah.
And the mum checked me again. He checked me over again, and she's had tea and everything.
And she was a feisty Irish lady, was she?
Oh, she was. She was very.
Like your mum.
I couldn't imagine your mum and her being together. Oh, she was Irish, obviously from Waterford, Ireland. Anyway, we had tea, and she said I like him, but he's very casual. I don't know what she meant by that, but anyway, and the rest is history.
And here we are today.
Yeah.
How many years later?
6.
We were madly in love at that time.
Yeah.
Were or still are?
No, not badly.
It's 67 years.
This
Saturday.
So tomorrow.
March the 2nd.
Yeah.
We got married. 57.
So how quickly were you married after meeting?
Oh, about 2 years.
2.25 years.
2.25 years.
Okay.
In those days, you had to save up to get married. Save up to get. We got engaged on March 21st. That was 55. Married 57.
Do you want me to carry on with the story?
Yeah.
So, I was back at Fulham for about 2 seasons. Understudied to Johnny Haynes and Robson and Bedford Jazzard. And then I played in the first team in various friendly games and in the five-a-side finals at Haringey Arena in 1956. I played, got a medal for that. Runners up to Arsenal.
Amazing.
So I was quite a high profile in the behind the scenes in the five-a-side teams, And then after that, what did I do more? A couple of seasons, and then was it 57 or 56? 56. I was taken ill. I was feeling a bit off, and I went for an X-ray at a hospital in Chelsea, which was what is it now called?
It's called
Kensington Chelsea Hospital. I went for an X-ray, and they found I'd got a duodenal ulcer, which is a stomach ulcer. So
serious?
Yes, I was admitted to hospital. And a short time later, they said, "I'm sorry, Joe, but you will not be able to play football."
Excuse me, just
Good.
because they had to operate.
You had to operate.
In those days, they operated. They don't do it now. It's all treated with medication. But in those days,
It's ridiculous. But then they said, "No, you can't." So I had to stop playing. I was 23 nearly, then. I was just sort of breaking into the squad,
Yeah.
And,
how did you feel?
Well, I think if I hadn't had more enough family around me, I would, I'm not saying suicidal, but I was in a bad way.
Gone home, wouldn't you?
I'd have to go home and see my mother, But so I later I had to have an operation at Kingston Hospital. But now they say, when they see my scar, they say, no, we don't do things like that anymore. Medication.
Yeah.
So I was very unlucky. I was in the wrong, wrong era that they could have cured me and carried on playing football. So that was virtually the end of story at Fulham. But things took off.
Fulham looked after you, Joe.
Oh yeah, they looked after me. And Frank Osborne, the general manager, was friendly with a chap who had his own engineering company at Tolworth in Surrey. So this chap, Frank Osborne, made arrangements for me to have an interview with this chairman of this company. And I went along, met him. He showed me all the road. He took me around the factory and introduced me and all that. And at the end, we went in his office and sat down. He said, "Yes, I can offer you a job, Joe. Not much money, but there's a good chance of a romance." And I'd only been married about 3 months because this company had a lot of ladies working in the machines and in the office and all.
Yeah,
And I said, looked at him and said, "Oh, jeez, Pete." So, shall I carry on with the story?
Yeah.
'Cause, so I started more or less straight away. That was about 6 months after I stopped playing football for Fulham. And I was put in the bottom end of the works. And
What was your role?
well, I started in the machines shop and with these ladies. I don't know why it put me in there.
I'm sure you were loving life.
Yeah. Anyway, I just gradually over the years I moved up the ladder until
Okay.
at the end
You were a progress chaser.
I was a progress chaser
For a
at
long
first
time, weren't you?
on the shop floor, and gradually went in the different departments, and I ended up the sales manager of the company.
Amazing.
I ran the sales office for about 7 years, and then which I was quite prestige, a company car and all expenses paid and all that. So I was enjoyed. It was a family business.
Yeah.
Where we all knew each other. It was lovely to work there,
Yeah.
and go and.
And what was and so what was it that made it lovely?
Well, the people were so nice because a lot of these people had been from boys and they'd worked. They were all apprentices and senior engineers, so they all grew up as a group on the shop floor.
Okay.
So there was no sort of any class distinction. We're all together. Even the directors were all friendly. And
then usually came along.
oh yes,
You forgot that, didn't you?
yeah. I
We'll
didn't.
just roll. We'll just roll.
I didn't play for a couple of years. I was just carrying on working. And then once this chap, a friend of mine, said, "Why don't we just go up and do a bit of training, Joe, and see how you feel?" So I did. I went out, and he said, "Why don't you go back, try and get back in?" So a manager at Useley, who were in the Southern League, it's Useley, you've never heard of them. Uxbridge, around that area. We're in the Southern League, semi-professional. And the manager was an ex-Fulham manager who signed me for Fulham.
Yeah. And so you're able to get back playing.
So
again?
I went back to Useley, played for Useley, and then Jackie Milburn, War Jackie, the famous centre forward of all time, Newcastle, came to be player manager
Oh, amazing.
of Useley.
Yeah. And how was that?
Great, because we've been from the same area, Newcastle,
Yeah.
and he was a legend, War Jack. And he played number 9, I played number 7. And he used to say to me, "Joe, I'm not running, don't put the ball too far in front." I always remember him saying that. He said, "I want it at my feet." So we laughed, War Jackie. So I was there for about a year or 2 years.
Yeah.
Then I left them and I joined Tunbridge Wells.
Ah, okay.
You got the story in 1961 when I joined them, and yes, so I played for about 2 years with War Jackie at Useley.
Amazing. And then what was Tunbridge Wells like?
Well, Tunbridge Wells, once again, a mixture of Tottenham players and Chelsea ex players, and it was okay, but we never achieved a great deal except for the FA Cup. League we were no good, but
Tell me a bit more about the FA Cup.
FA Cup. Well, we had to go through the early rounds, and one of the highlights was we played Tonbridge, which is the next town. There, there's like Fulham and Chelsea, right?
Yeah, rivalry.
So we played Tonbridge in the round before the first round, and we won at Tonbridge, which celebrations all over. So
that's all right. Yeah.
Which but
Karen.
To me, playing in I haven't played at quite a high standard. When you play like non-league, the lowest, it's not quite the same. I'm still haven't got that sort of feeling that you're going to achieve a great deal, But it's certainly when I played it, usually we had a lot of ex-star players, West Ham and Brentford, and all guys who were probably late 30s, and just playing for a few pounds, that they could get.
Yeah. And then when did you set up a successful football team at your company?
Oh
didn't you?
yes, when I worked at the company, but we had an apprentice school in there. It was about 30 young men, all under 20, doing their trade, and a couple of them kept pestering me about coaching them, taking them training and sort of things. And I wasn't particularly interested because I'd stopped playing,
Yeah. How old are you at this stage?
I was maybe early 30s.
Okay.
Early 30s, after played 31. Yeah, I was early 30s. And I said, anyway, the twist my arm, I said yes. And we had a social club, and the firm always put money into the social club, and then you could get stuff. So anyway, I had a social club, and I went to the secretary and I said, I want to buy this team. I'm going to form a team, and I want a set of kit, new jerseys. And the boys had a vote what kind of kit they wanted, and they voted for West Ham's colours.
Oh.
So I went along to Tolworth. This is quite interesting. I went to a sports shop, which was owned by Eddie Lowe and Ian Black, two of the Fulham first team players.
But
they'd retired
West
then,
Ham
but
colours.
they were quite well known in Fulham. They were there, so they gave me a discount.
That's good.
So I bought all the full set of kit and gave it to the team, young lads, and we joined. We played a few friendlies, and then we joined the Kingston District League, which was 8 divisions. Naturally, we started off the bottom. But gradually, I was getting sort of like promoted in the company, I was getting a bit higher job, and I didn't really have a lot of time to spend with them because I used to take them training that. So at the end, when I left them, they were about, I think, about Division 4. They finished in Division 2 in the end.
Amazing.
They had such a good team, good boys team.
Yeah.
But I told them that I wouldn't run them unless it was from the company. I didn't want any outsiders coming in. But some of the boys were leaving because they'd finished their apprenticeships and they left the company. So there was gaps in the team and there was outsiders coming in.
Right.
So they didn't. So I finished, completely with them, but they did well.
What do you
And then later?
Go on.
Later, I formed. I don't know why I did it. I formed a golf.
Did you?
Yeah, I formed a little golf club. It wasn't a society. I'm just trying to.
I guess before we go into the golf, what do you think was the recipe for that football team doing so well and being
well? Because they all worked together. They all worked on little different sections in the factory, so they're all really close to one another. The families and them. So that bond, there wasn't any special. They were all together.
Yeah.
No snobbiness or anything like that. And they enjoyed playing together, and it was a friendly atmosphere, In fact, a couple of times the couple of guys came from the pub to the and I told them off. There's no drinking.
A couple of warm-up drinks.
Yeah, they a couple of little scallywags sort of thing. But no, they were very, very nice lads and some good players. Sometimes we had 2 good players, and I really should have referred them to Fulham for the trial, because they were really good players.
Yeah.
But I didn't. But they were a good team, and sadly, when a lot of them left, they weren't, went into mediocre. I think they joined a Sunday League or something, but it wasn't quite the same. But I'd moved on. I couldn't look after them really. But the golf was a different kettle of fish.
Go on.
We I started with a couple of the ex-footballers, they wanted. So there was about 10 of us, older people, and my job was for the company. I used to travel all over Great Britain for business, and I used to go past golf clubs and all this and that.
Yeah.
So when I set it up, and I said, right, I'll find some good golf courses when on my travels, which I did. and we in Yorkshire and Lincolnshire and all that.
So you
we
do a
had
tour?
we had this sort of every year the company sort of closed down for a week, end of May. So we used to make that our golf trip, 3 days, 3 days golfing in different places.
That's great.
You know, and I went to my sister had a hotel in North Yorkshire near Richmond, lovely place. So I said take them there, and I'd booked it the Richmond Golf Club for our game. You know, so we could travel to the golf and come back to the hotel for food. So I was a little organised in that on that golf.
Yeah, that's amazing. What do you think it is that you've obviously got like a flair for, you know, playing sport and then setting up a football team, then setting up a golf society? Why?
Well, I like the outdoor for a start. I like being outdoors and walk on the golf course. You're walking miles, aren't you, and keeping fit. So I like to be keeping fit. But I just like the idea of doing some sport, being sporty.
Yeah.
You know, and knowing I was ex-professional footballer, whether I had something special to them, you know. But
interesting. And so I guess maybe moving on to like another chapter of your life. But so how old were you when you had 3 sons? How old were you when you became a dad for the first time?
it was
1950. Philip was born in 59. Martin was born in 62, and Michael was born in 65.
Okay,
so I was 20.
25.
Would have been 30. You've been.
God, we can't remember.
So you were 1934. Did you say you were born?
Yes.
And then Philip was born in.
54. He was 50. He was 29.
Okay.
29. Yeah, 29ish, and Martin. There was 3 years difference between the 3 boys.
Okay, and we didn't really touch on it at the start, but what was your relationship like with your father?
Not particularly good, because in those days they didn't seem to be terribly interested in football. My father didn't, only my brother John did, but my father was not really interested. In fact, I don't ever remember him coming to see me play. When at the school, I didn't play anything.
Can I just interject there, just to say that in those days, families were not like they are now. I love you, Dad. I love you, Mum. That was never ever mentioned. Father was like a distant.
Yeah, you were just
come home, have his dinner, go to the pub.
Yeah,
that was his life. Sorry,
That's all right.
that's what they were like. That's what they're like. Not just in Durham, but they were generally.
Me out.
But no. My dad wasn't particularly interested in. I'm just trying to. Yeah.
What was he like as how did that make you feel?
Well, no, it was okay, but I was. But when you're young like that, you don't have really feelings about anything. My other uncle, my dad's brother, had a small farm, small holding, and then my dad used to take me there.
Okay.
My 2 brothers worked on farms during the war, so we had an agricultural background.
Oh, amazing! Yeah.
You know, I spent a lot of time on my uncle's property, a little farm, an orchards farm, and all sorts of that. So I had a good childhood like that. But my mother was very nice, and she Maureen, we never had any lovely, she didn't have any problems. I was speaking to my brother earlier today, and he said, my mother had lots of your programs, lots of things from Kenya and all sorts, but they've disappeared. Someone has taken them in the family, and I've never recovered them.
Oh.
But he said we used to sit by the fire, and my mother couldn't stop talking to you because I was in Kenya, in East Africa, and what was he doing? How was he, being treated? Because I was the only one in the family who'd ever done things like this. I was in the army, and she said she was quite proud of you being,
I bet,
in the army.
Yeah, I can imagine she was. And how do you think the relationship or lack of with your father shaped your approach of being a father?
No, I
The
didn't.
opposite.
Hey,
You were the opposite.
yeah,
To what your dad
I was
was. You're very
complete.
hands-on dad.
I was who?
You were.
Yeah, I was with the boys. We had a good relationship with them, and never any trouble.
Mm.
Not to us anyway.
My
But
dad was more of a father to you than
yeah,
Dad.
more than his dad. But no, I didn't think about my dad in like that. It could compare because, as Maureen said, they didn't have a real lot of affection then. But
Mm.
I was affectionate with my boys, and
Yeah.
and we'd go to the park and play football and various things, just like normal.
Yeah.
And they always say they had a a good upbringing,
Yeah,
didn't they,
they're
Maureen? They were
lucky.
happy, very happy where they
Lucky.
lived and what they did.
But I guess if you grew up not knowing that, what made you be the complete opposite?
No, it's a good question. I I just think I liked being with people, like not sitting back and watching them. I like to be with them, and
Mm.
like the football or the golf or
Mm.
something,
Yeah.
being with them, not organising them, and sort of being happy and telling them jokes and things.
Mm. What would you say to anyone that is yet to be a father? What makes a good father?
I think having a good personality, someone they can like, they've got to like you or love you.
Mm.
But we never fell out, or I mean, I don't remember not hitting them, things like that. But
Mm.
I was just being kind to them, and our boys were never grabbers or wanted this and wanted that. They know we couldn't afford it,
Mm.
but they were, and no, I think we were just happy family. More my wife Maureen, and
Um, yeah, that's really obviously I'm yet to have my own kids, and it sounds like, gosh, if I could
You'll be a good
emulate.
father because you've been brought up in a
but
very happy family life, haven't you?
when
Though your parents separated or whatever, your mother's very loving and giving, isn't she? And you've inherited that
Mm.
unknowingly, really,
Mm.
because it's a natural thing, isn't it?
Mm.
To be loving and giving.
Yeah.
it's difficult, Maureen described it, but it's difficult to describe. How you comparing like my father. I mean, I never thought about him, because that was gone, in the past. But
Mm. Mm.
but my boys, I mean, the history of what they've achieved.
Well, so I was just about to say, tell me, yeah, tell me more about your boys.
Well, they went to normal Catholic schools in Wimbledon and
Wimbledon College.
Wimbledon College and where else? Wimbledon College. But Philip, the oldest boy, was quite bright at school. In fact,
Very.
very bright at school. In fact, at his small primary school, he did a magazine for the school called The Sacred Heart.
No, the Hearts Herald.
Heart's Herald.
He ran
He
a
ran
school
it. He
newspaper.
ran a new school, and he was only maybe 6 or 7.
Amazing.
And then he and the other two went to a good school, but
Mm.
none. Philip had high marks, A levels, where he could have gone to university. His
Mm.
friends used to say, "Why don't you?" Philip says, "No." He knew exactly what he wanted to do, and the two other boys didn't have that high grades.
Mm.
But Philip worked for record company. No, he used to work. No, not work. He used to write articles for the New Musical Express when he was still at school, and he used to go to concerts and write about
Review.
the review. He'd do a
Was it?
review in the magazine.
That's amazing. Was it a musical household growing up, or
No,
no?
no
So where did he
musical.
get it from?
No, we don't know where he got it from, but he was writing for that. He got 2 awards in London, the Leslie Perrin Awards from the New Musical Express. Then he went into with companies. I'm not going to tell you but he went into different companies, music companies.
Mm.
Then he left and set up his own business.
How old was he?
He was
That was in 86. He was born in 59. You work it out.
Okay.
59,
27.
27.
yeah, about 27 when he started doing this.
I've still got the
And
letter that Lloyd's Bank wrote to him, giving him an overdraft to start the company up.
Yeah, amazing.
so he started off, and he was writing about all these the Pogues, the Oasis, Elvis Costello, Stone Roses, all these top bands of the time.
Yeah.
Philip was doing reviews for them.
Okay.
And that's what he did that. Then later, he stopped doing that and he became he went into management, and he discovered the Manic Street Preachers.
Okay.
They came home and lived with them when they were young, and lived with them.
Were they quite a big band?
Not then.
Never
Not
knew,
he just
never knew,
just got them from when they left university. They were
Okay.
just starting, and he
Yeah.
saw them, spotted them, liked them, and brought them on.
Amazing.
And then he had people. And
Well, Martin joined him, didn't he?
Martin, yeah, and then he's got all these other bands. You know, he's had various the Script. He had Sophia Spectre for a while, I think. And anyway, he's had numerous. On his book. So now it's called All or Nothing Management.
Ah, I like the name.
Yeah,
and
Martin works. Michael. Oh yeah, when Philip sadly passed away with his cancer problem, his wife took over for a while, and then.
No, Martin was already with him.
Oh, Martin was already working for him.
Joined him.
So then Martin
joined him when he found the Manics.
Yeah. So Martin took over, and now Michael is working. My other son is working with him, who was also in the music business beforehand. Worked for Stiff Records and Telstar. So management. So they're all.
Wow.
And then our grandson James has now joined the company.
Amazing. They've created something special.
So they've got bands quite high. The Script, the Manic Street Preachers, various bands they're looking after. Wet Leg. And
then when Philip was setting up the company, were both Michael and Martin working within the industry?
No, not working with him.
No, not working in the. No, but working in the industry.
Martin was in America. Michael was working for Telstar.
Yeah, Michael, the youngest, was working for Telstar.
Okay.
Martin.
I only joined him quite a long time after Philip had died. I'll tell you the story if you don't mind. Martin was in America, kept phoning me, see if you ask Philip if he'd give me a job. So we said, nag Philip. And then he said, yes, all right, if he comes back, he can work with me. Fine. Michael was out in America then, working, doing odd jobs. Phoning me, can you see if there's a job for me? Oh, nothing. So I phoned him up. I kept phoning. Martin said, don't keep hassling me, Mum, about Martin. I said, Martin, I'll hassle you
Michael.
as much as I hassled Philip to get you the job. And he got the job. And they work very well together because Martin's very creative. Michael's exceptionally good with figures.
Okay. So it's a good.
All the money.
It's a good blend.
All the money.
But Martin's the boss.
I guess we kind of brushed over it, but how old was Philip when he got diagnosed with cancer?
He was
32. And he passed away at 34.
So it was quite a quick process.
34 years, 2 years. They told him it was terminal lung cancer.
No, they told him, but he didn't accept it.
He didn't accept it.
See, it was a very difficult time for us because we knew it was terminal.
And he kept asking, and we wouldn't tell him. You couldn't tell him, could you? That
you're happy to tell your son he's going to die.
Yeah.
How can you?
Yeah.
It was a very.
So he had a fantastic send off anyway with all in the music industry. You can imagine all the bands, the Pogues, the Irish, they all came. You know, so we've known them. So they've done exceptionally well. The boys, you know what I mean? They're quite well known, but that's from having a good mother and father.
People say to me, "Oh, you must be very proud." I say, no. Pride comes before a fall. I was very proud of Philip. Look what happened to him. So I don't say I'm proud. I'm very happy that they're doing so well, but pride is just a false thing, isn't it? Really, you can't be proud of something that's.
Anyway, we love the.
Not you're doing, is it? It's their doing.
Anyway, carry on, Kieran.
I guess the that 2 year window, and I guess like afterwards you never and I'm obviously not a parent, but you never anticipate that your kids will go before you.
Because when Philip went, I was still working, obviously. I don't know if you retired. Maureen took early retirement. Yeah, Well, I was carrying on working when it was in the 84, 85. A bit of a slump was going on in industry and everything, and I was getting a little bit disillusioned going places because
Yeah.
so bad. 3 years after he died, I retired, took
Okay.
early retirement from the company. And my family, the family company, we were all, a
Mm.
lovely job, no need to retire, but I just couldn't sort of feel the same anymore,
Yeah.
So I retired.
How did you um how did you manage that grief?
Was very
You don't have
difficult.
a choice,
You do,
do you?
no,
don't have
it
a
didn't. But
choice.
what we did do was when Maureen retired, then when I retired, we decided to go on a trip to forget about work. So Maureen booked a holiday on a coach tour of the west coast of America.
Wow.
So we went on a tour. I don't know how long was it. 2 weeks, Maureen?
About 3 weeks.
About a 3 week tour of the west coast. To get away from all the.
Yeah.
So that when I came back, I'd more or less not forgotten that I didn't have to get up and go to work, and so they gave me the company car.
Oh wow.
A bit of a send off. We had a dinner dance and all that, and
Just a little snippet.
but we
One of the
still.
things Philip liked, he loved horse racing,
Okay.
and we organised some after his death. We organised a race day for all his friends, and we paid for a race to be named after him. It was called the Pinnacle Memorial Race. We used to go down. We went to Sandown. We went to Lingfield. We even went to Epsom, didn't we?
Yeah, we had a
Organise it every
hospitality
year,
suite. We had
all the music friends used to go. It was quite a boozy job.
hospitality suite. We had,
Yeah.
It was in his name.
Did that make you see the world in a different light after Philip passed?
Well, naturally we're all sad and all that, but you've got to continue, haven't you? You've got to get on. You've got to move on. Not and trying to. You don't forget those sort of things, but it's at the time it was horrendous. You couldn't believe that he was so young, and I mean, the story was that he went down to Bristol to see another consultant. Do you want to continue, or shall I?
You go for it. You got the mic.
Yeah, I've got. He went to Bristol to see another consultant, and he was no different. He was terminal, and he met a group called not the Stone Roses. So they met a group down there, Stone Roses.
Yeah.
And they said to him at Chadden, said, "Would you become our manager, Philip?"
Wow.
What can you say?
And
He came back and he said,
he was driving back and he phoned us and he said, "Stone Roses have asked me to be their manager." He said, "I've either got to go after health or wealth." So perhaps you can have. We knew then it was
yeah, you could
perhaps
say.
you could have both, Philip.
Yeah.
So naturally, he turned it down. That was the end of his.
Because he went into hospital shortly after.
Yeah, he went in hospital in Kensington.
And did he have a young family?
No, didn't have no family.
Oh, okay.
He'd only been married 2 years.
Oh.
Irish family.
Oh, really?
No,
from Cork. From Cork he was, Johnny Gould. And Terry's never married because she was in the music business. It's all kept in the. She's never married, Terry. So it's all been. Anyway, what shall I talk about now?
No, so like I guess there's so many things, but I think there's some questions that I'd love for you to like reflect on and just give whatever thought kind of comes to mind. And you know what would you say, like throughout your life, what have been the non-negotiables?
In what way?
The things that the things that you stand for, yeah.
Well, I stand for well-behaved, no nonsense children. I stand for being happy and getting on, being polite, and people. I like talking and like being in company and doing things, going on nice holidays. Well, I did, but generally just being kind to people, I think.
Mm.
I came from a nice background. My mother was always, not my father, but my mother was very nice and pleasant and taught us the right things. And certainly, Maureen's mother was very strict with the children, but she taught them all how to behave and manners and things like that, which is good, which I stand for,
Yeah.
having good manners and being polite. And the children tell us now that they had a good upbringing and they were happy, which is important, isn't it?
How do you think that compares to present day?
Well, I think the present day they've lost a lot of the values, the true values that we had, manners, and I mean, for instance, with the iPads and things like that, and going to the bedroom or sitting on the couch and doing that rather than talking. Conversation has gone in lots of ways, isn't it, amongst people?
Yeah.
And maybe because my age, I'm a bit of a dinosaur, but that I still compare years ago to the present day. Lots of things was better in my time than they are now.
Well, this probably brings us on perfectly. But how do you think that your values have changed over the decades?
Not really. No, I'm probably an old school. There's lots of rude things. People not everyone. I can't say that, but there's lots of rude comments and conversations. Not the same. Certainly, I mean, one instance we had many years ago in the local pub. My brother-in-law, who was a sergeant in the police force, came on holiday and staying with us. We went down the local pub, and we went to the bar, and sometimes the locals, you get a little group at the bar, and they think they own. Anyway, my brother-in-law, who was a sergeant in the police force in Sunderland, was with me, and he stepped, and he must have caught this chap's foot, and the chap turned around and says, "Oi, mate, don't do that. Who do you think you are?" And he was really aggressive, and
Yeah.
I thought, well, not. And my brother-in-law was quite a nice,
Yeah.
kind spirit. And anyway, cut long story short, I said when we walked out, and I turned around and I said, "This chap, you've just spoken to a police sergeant. I've got your number," and he shut up straight away.
I
But
bet.
what I'm saying is, this bloke was very rude,
Yeah.
and I don't like things like that where people, rather than being polite and saying, "I'm sorry," or blah blah blah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, I think a lot of your mum made the comment about like driving. People are very aggressive now.
Yeah. Everyone needs to get somewhere.
And the courtesy of the road, there's certain things which are better, and there's certain things that are worse. It's difficult to explain. We are quite strict on manners, like on the table, the children, and sadly, a lot of them.
So how does that, now that you're like a grandfather, how does that when you when you see
Well, we see it, but
yeah.
we see it. But then I saw my wife's parents when our children were little, and they were naughty or something, and I didn't like it when my father-in-law would sort of
Yeah.
say, if he was mine, or he needs a good this and that.
Yeah.
And we're the same now. We
Yeah.
but when we see our grandchildren misbehave or doing things in with the iPad or what they're doing,
Yeah.
but you got to grit your teeth, because you must never criticize them in front of their parents. So because you cause a bit of a rift if you don't.
Yeah.
But you know what it's like with it.
I guess maybe I won't put words in your mouth, but it'd be good to get your thought on this. So there's something that I came across. It was actually quite recently, and using kind of like the philosophy of humans having two lives, and your second begins when you realize that you only have one. When do you think your second began? Do you see what I mean? When something, so whether it was the passing of Philip, or when you realize, wow, I'm I'm only here once.
What would I do?
Well, when do you think? Is there a
No,
moment in time where you thought, geez,
I
I
don't
really
think
need to make the most of.
I don't think I would like to want to change my image.
That's not what he's saying.
No, well, I can't. It's very difficult to explain. I don't. Do you know?
I know you don't want my view, but
No.
we're not only the last, since we've become unwell, have we realised how short life is. Up to then, we thought we could live forever. Now we know we're not.
Well,
going
yes,
to.
that's true.
And that's how we feel now.
Yeah.
When you
our days are numbered, because being realistic, we're 19. I don't see us being here in 5 years' time.
No, you think. See, I tell this to people that when you look at me like now, I'm a mistake, and I'm saying, well, before I was running around, I was active, athletic, and doing this and doing that, and you never think, like you're your age, you never think too far ahead that you're going to get something wrong with you, do you? It's like me at 23 getting this dual dental ulcer.
Yeah.
And it's in, you think, why me? And, what have I done? But things do happen. Things do change. You get older and suddenly something happens and you can't walk. There's no cure and that. But you just got to get on with it, haven't you? I mean, I'm a real moaner, as Maureen knows that. But and your mum knows that. She says I'm a wimp, but I'm not. But
You're not.
your mum was quite impressed with me with my injections at the hospital.
Yes. Yeah.
When I sat in the chair and she was sitting next, and I don't know, but these needles are quite long. The cortisone injection, and I had 6 injections in my neck, and I didn't flinch. I thought I was going to scream or something. I didn't flinch. And your mum said, "Oh, you're not a wimp after all."
I guess I think that's really important for us to talk about. Like, I think going back to you saying, Maureen, about you don't realize that we're not gonna live forever. What would you say? What would you say to an 18-year-old Joe, having experienced the things you've experienced and the things that you know now? What would your advice be to that 18-year-old Joe?
I think you've got to believe in yourself and have confidence, because when I was 18 at Fulham, the manager used to say to me, you're not aggressive enough. You're not, meaning I should be tackling harder, or your personality, you should change your more personality to being something I'm not really. It was, I'm quite a shy and non-aggressive sort of guy. 18-year-old, it all depends if you've got a good family and looking after someone you can rely on. I mean, I didn't have anyone to rely on when I was 18. Difficult question. Ambition, I didn't really have. When at that age, I never thought I was going to be a sort of professional footballer or anything like that. I didn't speak too much about it. It just happened, and I was quite happy, and I was in a different world, sort of thing. Happy doing what I was doing, which I was told you before. You've got to be happy at your work, haven't you?
Yeah.
Football was a work. I was getting paid for it. In fact, I was looking one of my contracts when I was 1951. I signed £7
a week.
£7 a week in the winter, in the season, and £6 in the summer when you're not playing.
Was that enough to live on?
Well, it's good. Well, possibly that people would be getting a third of that. It was.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's the difference. What you get. And then as you get up the ladder, I think when it finished in the reserves, I was getting 12 playing and 10 in the summer. But the first team, this was right across the country. Every team, Chelsea, Fulham, there was a cap on your way. You got, I think it was, might have been 20. I'm not 18 or say it was 20. and 18, 20 playing, 18. That's all the players got, no matter who you were.
Okay.
Till they brought in this the contract business where they can, have agents and all
Yeah.
that, and you can, get. Johnny Haynes was the first £100 a week footballer.
Okay.
But that was the ceiling, But
Mm.
not like now, which I think, me personally, I think it's a bit disgraceful that people get that sort of money. I find it a little bit obscene that you're paying. It shouldn't happen. Not everyone gets that sort of money, but certainly we used to enjoyed the football. We enjoyed it. Money, we liked the money, but it wasn't the be all and end all.
So, well, actually, that brings me perfectly onto, I guess, the next question of what's the recipe for happiness?
That's a good question, isn't it? We were happy. When we met, we didn't sort of think about money. It was going more in. Never thought, oh, I'm going with a professional football and blah blah. She never was a show off, so we had this understanding. We never talked, who's getting this, who's getting that, and even when we got married, we had a joint account, which we still have. It was our money. It wasn't hers. It wasn't mine, and we've always been like that, which made us quite happy in the sense that we never argued over cash.
Yeah.
I'm not saying happy. Happy, we had 3 lovely children. We've had problems. We've had heartbreaks. But we had 3 children. We were always happy with the children. We could take them anywhere and well behaved. We had nice in-laws. I got on well with Maureen's dad, even though he was a Chelsea supporter. But we had quite good times with them. We used to take them on holiday. It's been happy as well.
Being kind.
Being kind.
Joe hasn't said it, but he's got a very kind nature.
Yeah.
Very kind.
I like, yes, that's what I said before. Like being happy.
And he's a people pleaser.
Yeah, happy and and kind to people. I mean, I've got this old-fashioned habit of giving the children pocket money.
Yeah.
Have you heard pocket money?
Yeah.
What, your dad?
No, we didn't. No, we didn't get pocket money, but I think whenever you'd go and visit family or anything like
You
that,
get something.
they'd always
give you something.
Yeah.
Similar
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, but I do that because I'm old-fashioned. That my uncle would give me sort of sixpence, like with and it was go and buy some sweets and all that,
Yeah.
When I saw more, pocket money.
Yeah.
But now I give them, and it's a bit old-fashioned more in things.
But I guess even I remember vividly when I was gosh, I don't know how old I probably was 12, 13, when I probably did the most horrendous job, but you used to get me in and I'd cut the grass or, do bits and bobs, and you'd pay me way too much money. And I remember always.
Who was that?
You.
Me?
You, yeah.
Oh, well,
yeah.
I'm still doing the same with Essend and not your mum. We don't begrudge what we give your mum. Well, no, but that's me. Maybe I was too kind. I'm still the same,
Yeah.
Do
you think that
it's part of my? I mean, because maybe because we didn't have much when we were young. I mean, I come from a really quite a poor family, and in fact, the thing is, when I signed as a professional, the family didn't know more, and they thought you were rich. That they wanted to borrow money from me. Well, I couldn't lend people money, but you've got this reputation that you're all well off, which is not true. But I've always, because I like to make people happy, like if you give someone like you, if your dad give you £10 you think, oh, it's wonderful, isn't it? I can do this and do that.
Well, what do you think is more valuable?
I'm not buying their friendship or anything like that.
Yeah, well, so that I guess leads to my point. What's the richest currency in life?
What's what?
Richest currency. So not necessarily money,
happiness. I think you got to be happy. It's like, I mean,
So if someone was listening to this and they're in, you know, a real rut and they feel the complete opposite of, you know, the
Yeah.
things that we're talking about.
Happy
How
and
do
all.
you get out of
Happy
that?
and all that, yeah.
Because you
No,
you know, let's say when, you know, Philip passed or other, you know, struggles that you've gone through, but because that's such a traumatic
yeah.
thing. You know, how
Well,
did you get yourself
well,
back to being happy
when
again?
Philip passed away, naturally we had the funeral was a fantastic affair and blah blah blah. And I was off. I stayed off work, I think 2 weeks,
Mm, mm,
and they were ringing me at the end saying, "When are you coming back?" You know,
yeah.
and I, it's difficult. You know, I couldn't explain how I felt. You know, people, and I didn't want to join in things and didn't want to get into conversations.
Not
You
your
know,
usual self.
yeah, exactly. So they would
Mm,
look and say, "What's wrong?" You might not knew what's wrong, but
mm,
I wasn't my normal
yeah.
self. I went in sort of a shell. You know,
Mm. So
and I,
how did you get
and I
out of
couldn't.
that
Well,
shell?
I think what it was. Well, Maureen, my wife. I think what it was also, I got back into work, you know, and my mind was not was concentrating on other things, you
Mm,
know. Whereas when I was home, you sat there, and all you thought about was,
yeah.
where is he? What's happening?
Mm,
Will he?
mm,
Things like, will he come back? Or you know, and
yeah. Yeah.
it's very difficult to explain how you feel. Not very happy. You know, people could look at you and say, yeah, you're not happy, but
Mm,
you couldn't go in and smile, and you know,
yeah.
and that's why I think with the job, after about 3 years, I didn't have that same enthusiasm. It wasn't me, you
Mm,
know, that was from being normal and cheerful,
yeah.
because I had this reputation. My boss used to call me sometimes Mr. Smoothie, Mr. Smoothie. I used to go at the companies and the receptionist and say, "Hello, well that's a nice dress you're wearing. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a nice." Maureen says you can't say things now, can you, Maureen?
No, but you know, funny enough, I really try to make an effort to make comments on those things,
Yes, yes.
because it makes people love to feel, you know, noticed
Wanted,
or
and yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Then the jobs,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, I was always like that.
yeah.
You know, the one you say being kind.
Mm,
I used to say that, and then so people would say, "Oh, well, hello, Mr. Hall,
yeah.
nice to see you again."
And it builds that
Whereas some
relationship,
of them
doesn't it?
wouldn't speak, you know, look away
Mm,
or something. Oh,
yeah.
yes. And you go on the shop floor. When I went on, I used to go to Rolls Royce and
Mm,
Vauxhall and would meet all these people. And then someone say, "Oh, did you see that football match last week?" "Oh, yes, it was good, wasn't it?" Blah blah. Blah.
mm,
And you can chat to
yeah,
them.
of course. Yeah,
Some of
yeah,
my colleagues, if I
yeah,
went, they weren't interested in, you
yeah.
know, mixing,
And but that's what galvanizes relationships,
and I
doesn't it?
think that's why I got this job. That I had
Yeah.
this personality, you
Oh,
know,
you would. Yeah, I'm sure you would have been
that
amazing.
I wasn't. I mean, Maureen said that that I should have been a director of the company.
Mm,
I should have been,
Pushy enough.
mm.
but I wasn't. But
It's never been over ambitious, have you?
no,
What's your what's your biggest regret in life?
well, no, naturally losing our son, but um, I wish I'd gone further in my football career, my professional football career. What's one of my biggest, one of the regrets that I was when I came out of the army, 20, and I came back to Fulham. The general manager, who was a big chief at Fulham, Frank Osborne, called me in when I was training on the pitch, and I thought, well, what's going to happen now? He's calling me in the office. And I went in, he says, "Joe," he said, "we've had two offers for you, one from Wolverhampton Wanderers
Oh wow.
and one from Brentford." He says that they're keen to sign you. He says, and we won't stand in your way. So I thought a while at it.
Mm,
Now, if I'd had an agent or someone to
yeah.
back me up, I would have thought a bit more about it. But I said, "No, Mr. Osborne, I'm quite happy. I like the club and friends and
Mm,
players. No, I won't bother." Big mistake,
really.
because I was stuck. I was understudy to some of the best players in the
Mm.
country, and they wouldn't change that team. Once I played at Northampton reserves that season, and we won 4-0. I scored the 4 goals.
Oh. Wow.
But it didn't mean anything.
Yeah, because you wouldn't be able to fight your way into the team.
It didn't mean anything, and I didn't get in the team, and something else happened. I made my debut for the first team in the league. The only one game was at Sheffield Wednesday. I think that was 1956. They were top of the league, and we won 3-2. And I deputised. Now, the following week, I thought they might keep me in. I don't know who I deputised for, whether it was Haynes or Robson. I might think being Robson. I don't know whether I should say this on if you.
But I can edit it.
Anyway.
He's dead anyway. Who are we talking about?
Yeah, I'm not going to. No.
Say it.
Yeah.
It shows what it's like.
It's cutthroat. Politics. Well, so I went in every Friday. The team went up on the notice board in the first team dressing room.
Yeah.
Reserves teams, the first teams. I went in and someone said, "Joe, your name's on the board on the first team. Your name's been put in there." Really? So I went there. Yes. Oh, that's good. The manager, who obviously liked me, the new manager, he put me in. Half an hour later, my name had been scrubbed off. This is unheard of. My name had been scrubbed off, and this player I was replacing put his name back into the team.
What?
That's telling who it was.
Jimmy Hill.
Because he was a union man.
He was a big well in. It was a closed shop,
Politics.
Closed shop politics. And they liked him, and blah blah blah. He'd been there and blah. And older than me, and
How did you? I
just thought, I mean, if I'd had someone like the present day, it wouldn't have happened anymore because the agent having someone behind you. But I couldn't do much about it. It was just a closed shop, I carried on. But then that's when I thought, I shouldn't, like I'm telling you about, if you're unhappy with your job or you're stuck in it, it's not wise to stay there, I should have moved on,
Yeah.
Because I probably would have gone somewhere else and got in the first team,
Yeah.
That's
what stopped you?
Well, I'd have to go in there and ask for a transfer for a start, and I wasn't sure where I'd go, and you got to. You'd be in digs. I didn't own a house, anything like that. You're virtually starting again, aren't you?
Yeah. So what would you like? We can use the football example, but I think there's probably a lot of people that feel stuck in certain situations, be it personal, professional. What would you say to them?
Well, if you're in something like me, like my situation, where I was stuck, and you're not going to go get an advancement or get any promotion, it's pointless staying there. You're not very happy. I mean, I was there at Fulham when I came out of the army. It was 2 years, and I played in the reserve team and trained with the best players. But when it came to being in the first team, it was a closed shop. The same guys would, no matter how they played, if they lost or won, or anything, it was always going to be the same team. Until when I packed in at Fulham, 2 years later, some of the boys I'd been in the reserve team with advanced to the first team because the older first team guys, certain ones had retired or they'd gone. So these young lads had gone forward. So if I'd still been there, I'd have been in that front rank, that's you don't know, see, so you get stuck in there and you're comfortable, aren't you? You're frightened to move on, or say you think maybe it's going to happen, but it's not going to,
Yeah.
Even though you think you're probably in your job or that you're as good or better than the guy who's in that team, but because they like him or they see the manager or something about him, they'll keep him in there,
So basically, take action, take control.
Yeah. But whether and really, I mean, I didn't, as you just said, why didn't I? You've got to have the guts to do that, haven't you? And sort of say, right, I'm off, I'm going. But you're stuck. You like play people, like this, the players. You got friendly with them and everything.
Yeah.
But it doesn't do you any good, does it?
What would you say has been the greatest learning in your life?
Well, I think one of the things is leaving my background, leaving my background and going to play football, but also to go in the army for 2 years, which is a great, what's the word I'm looking for? Teaches you, sorry?
Experience?
Yeah, experience, and it teaches you discipline, comrades, and it's a culture, different culture, and they say you go in as a boy in the army and you come out a man.
Would you agree?
Yes. And I think everybody, nearly, not most people hate it, but because I was a professional footballer, it was quite different because I was, but the ordinary soldier, it was a great. It was depending where you were stationed. Some didn't like being in England for 2 years.
Yeah.
Me, I was lucky. I went 1 year, didn't want to, but that was wonderful being in Africa, the weather and everything. But that was great. I would say that going in the forces was a great experience, and I think
national service.
Well, I mean, I'm not know whether we're talking about it the other day about national service. It won't happen, but I mean, Germany at one time I think they were doing 6 months, 3 months or 6 months. They still kept it going,
Yeah.
But I mean, certainly for someone like you, if you've got a talent, you'll get by,
Fingers crossed.
Well, you don't. I'm not saying you want to do that, but I don't know what your job is, what you're doing at the moment. Whether it's just to stand by if someone comes along, or you'll move on. But you've got to be happy, haven't you?
Yeah.
I mean, I was happy when I left Fulham, and I got this factory job, and you can imagine that it was completely different from what I've been used to.
Yeah.
But I met a lot of it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. When you said about best experience, in a way, it was one of the best things that happened to me, because nice people and regular my salary, it was a regular job.
Yeah.
I was meeting nice people, and I did get promotion all the time, but you've got to enjoy it and enjoy the people who you're working with.
Yeah.
Because you said to me that certain people, didn't you, that you work with you, and you're not that not that brilliant, to work with. You've got to have a bit of personality,
Yeah.
Because we had quite a social life with our workforce, Maureen's company and mine. We all mixed social clubs. We had 2 social clubs, so we mixed and played darts. And there was dinner dances, all sorts of things going on. So we had a good life like that. Every week was something happening, And I mean, my firm, they had darts, had a bowling club. We had the football team that I ran, the golf that I ran. So there was always something going on,
Yeah.
The governor would walk past under the notice board and say, "Oh, what's this?"
Yeah.
The best thing about the company is also playing jokes. You wouldn't believe it. I don't know if they do it today, but our company was terrible. Once there was an accident in the factory.
Not that well. I'm going out.
Once there was an accident in the factory. There was always something going on because machines and we had a lad called Pete Rooney. He was the first aid man. Nice lad. He was an electrician, and they made an announcement. Pete Rooney going to so and so, and they couldn't find him in the factory. Well, we had like 3 factories. It was quite a big organisation.
Yeah,
couldn't find him.
Oh no.
So the next day, no, the same day, company secretary put a notice on the notice board. If in case of emergency, flash Barbara, who was the telephonist. You probably heard. She was the telephonist, an old. She'd been there years. She's part of the furniture. So next day, one of the guys who lived in New Malden came in, and he went up into the booth where she was working.
Yeah.
And she says, "Barbara, I've come to give you a flash."
So I guess that kept the morale high.
Yeah, well, it does, see, because little things like that, all the guys, they had a habit also. We had when they were inspecting jobs, they had glasses. Sometimes these little glasses like that. So they put the blue ink on there.
You have it round your
and they say, "Hey, Billy, come here. Would you have a look at this?" You look in with blue mark. You know, things they were doing.
Yeah.
Another one was a terrible thing was this to make a little aeroplane. You know, one paper aeroplane, something, and they'd stick it on your coat or
Yeah.
this is you do the governors.
Gosh.
You know, sometimes the government might stop or something.
Yeah.
But and stick it to your head. You know, you'd walk through the factory, and the things. You know,
incredible.
That was part of the life. You know, you don't saying things. You know, look out, here comes so and so.
Yeah,
you know,
being a bit more playful.
Yeah.
And you know, there's I think in this day and age, it's it's so common for divorces and people not staying together and what have you. What's been your recipe for over 60 years of marriage? How do you?
I think we're very compatible because we like the same things. We like to go shopping. You know, we are traveling, holidays, dressing up. We love going to dinner dances and sort of and dressing up. Always like to be in fashion. We didn't have mega money, but we just liked the cruises and when you're on a cruise, you meet people. No matter who you are, you sit and we talk to them and get on well with people.
Yeah.
We still have a friend in America, a lady in Washington, Texas, Maureen, and her birthday. So you meet, but as you know, we are outgoing people. We don't sit and feel sorry for ourselves, things like that.
Yeah,
we've always done it, and we still do it today. I mean, even though we're not. But
and do you think about death much?
I never used to. No, believe it or not, I never used to. But the last 5 years, since I haven't been able to do anything, my pain, my neck, I'm in terrible pain at the moment in my neck. You know, you can imagine like a raging toothache. So I take painkillers, but no, I don't really, because if it happens, and Maureen's the same. We don't. If it happens, you can't. Well, we can't do anything about it. But I don't get morbid about it. We just carry on with life.
Are you scared of it?
No.
And
I the only thing I will feel sorry for is our grandchildren. You know, I don't sort of obviously my sons, but no, we don't.
Would you like tea or coffee?
I'm okay, thank you.
I'll have a cup of coffee, please. Is my cup tea or matter?
Should we pass it?
No, we've.
Give you a clean cup, Joe.
We've
lucky day.
We said, what's been our happy being together, Maureen, isn't it? You and I happy?
We argue all the time.
Yeah, I never said that to him. I never said that.
That keeps it healthy.
Niggles all the time, but we never. That's part of our charm.
I put up with him because he puts up with me.
Yeah.
It's a common understanding.
But 67 years, you know. When I think of all of my friends, you know, like in the football world, this is all on. I went to a Fulham. I met someone down in holiday in Devon at the hotel, and somehow me talking. I heard them talking about Fulham, and I said, I used to play football for Fulham. As soon as I mentioned that, I was, this chap, they're all fanatical Fulham supporters. Come over, got his camera, he took a picture of me, and he says, and he said, "Oh, we're Fulham supporters club," and he says, "We have a walking football team. You know, they will play. We play with, and I don't know anything about it, but he says we do that." And he was chatting away, and he said, "Oh, you must come. He says we're having a dinner, lunch or something, supporters lunch or something. You must come."
Yeah.
So anyway, next thing I know, they invite me along to the dinner. It's only lunch. There's about 40 people there. Down at the Earl Beatty, the pub down there.
Oh, okay.
So that was a few months ago.
And you went?
Yeah. I've never really been involved before.
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, you can talk about I'm talking about the old team, like Johnny Haynes and all these, and Jimmy Hill and all." And so I went along. sadly, with that stick, it restricts me that I couldn't get around all the people.
Okay.
You get to see me in one spot and you keep people.
You'll have a queue of people waiting to talk to you.
Yeah.
Um,
but it was nice, and it's old time stuff,
yeah. It's
all the,
it's
but I mean, football is a football, isn't it? It's moved on soccer, but the players, you play that game, you play probably differently, but we still played worse conditions.
I guess, slight tangent, but what we spoke about what makes you happy. What flipping that, what robs you of energy, do you think?
What robs what me doing things? What do you mean?
I guess,
Can't do the things I'd like to be doing.
no, I guess in terms of if you reflect on is it
If I'd done things differently or done something else.
No, like but being around maybe certain people, or when you said that being around people gives you energy.
Yeah.
What's the what's the opposite of that?
Well, I don't I don't like to be I don't like to see miserable people. I don't like to be with miserable groups who are boring. I like to be cheerful and an extrovert rather than introvert. You know, uh, I used to enjoy being with the young boys, the teams, and things like that. That gives me energy and happiness. Doing something that makes people happy. Like Moran said about kindness. Kindness is important to people, isn't it? Children and.
I'll give it. That's okay.
It's difficult sometimes, Kieran. It's difficult to answer certain questions, isn't it?
Yeah.
What you would do and what you wouldn't do. Thanks.
That's okay. Now this might be a hard one to answer, because there's probably there's lots of words that come to my mind for you for this question. But if you were to pick one word that defined you, what would it be?
Can you swear?
It can only be one word.
Swear it could be.
I know one word.
Oh yeah, Maureen always says this about me. It's not ambitious. It's she says, oh, that I don't use my brain enough.
No, but as in, like,
That's not the word,
Isn't
kind.
kind. No, but I thought you meant something like, because Maureen always sometimes she says to me, "You've got the brain," because I question the geography and various things I know, and I say it. She says, "You've got a good brain, but you don't use it." No, kindness.
Yeah, as in, like, it would be more like, what would it, like, sum you up as a person?
I'm a kind, generous person. I like to see people happy. I like to make people happy.
Why do you think that is?
Well, believe it or not, when I was young, I was a little terror. I was the middle child, and I always wanted something that we couldn't afford. If I saw someone with a new bike or a new coat, I would say, my mother would say, "I haven't got the money to get you that," and I would pester her, and to say I was the runt of the family was I was a little terror, and yet and yet I was kind. My mother, I was always kind, and the thing with her, every time when being a footballer, I used to send her money, whatever I could, and she always expected me when I went home. I always give her certain money, and not, and I don't know whether I was a favorite, but my younger brother certainly said she missed you, when you were in Africa. Whether she was worried about me, but she talked about me, and it's being in a good family atmosphere is nice, isn't it? And you've got your family around you, and you're all laughing and being happy, which is important. I mean, You can't always be like that, but there you are. I mean, when you think, getting back to football, when you think that I came from a council house environment, an estate, which is at the low end of the scale, and Robson, well, not lower, but he came from a mining family, coal mining family. His dad was a coal miner, and he used to tell me that his dad used to come home from a coal mine, and his mother would have a tin bath full of hot water and everything, and he'd get in the tin bath, and she would bath him and wash his hair because he was all the coal dust would be on him,
Filthy.
which was common, you know, because in Durham nearly every village was a coal mining village,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So all these people, and as Maureen said, all they did, these people, was they came in from work, got washed and had the dinner, and then they were down the pub.
Yeah.
Nearly every night there was there. Whether they talked about football in the pub, but it was just a common, you know. Used to queue and wait till the pub opened.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get that nowadays, would you?
It's like
And it was, you see, and in those days, it was the pub was only open a certain time, like 12 till 2 and 6 till 10. That was the restrictions. You couldn't go in a.
Yeah.
And for many years it was like that, you know. But it was more alcohol, you know.
Yeah. What oh, this is a
These tricky questions from a little boy from Durham.
well, you're doing a great job. This would be really interesting. You know, what gets you out of bed in the morning now?
I know what gets me out of bed in the morning. No question about it. And so does he. What do you always say?
I was going to say something rude, but I better not.
No, go ahead. You can. No, don't hold back.
What are you laughing at? What about getting out of bed in the morning? Oh yes, sorry. No, I don't like lying in bed for a start.
Okay.
Because I was working. I always used to get up early and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And also, I get up in the morning. This is my kindness coming in again. I go and get my lovely wife a cup of tea.
Oh, that's
the first thing he does.
That's the first thing I do in the morning. I go downstairs and get.
Why do you do that?
I've always done it. It's just something when we get back to kindness or something. I'm always thinking I must do that. Someone likes more loves a cup of tea in the morning. I'm not bothered. I'll have but I get, and sometimes I'm waiting, sort of, if I sleep in.
He keeps telling me to wake him up.
You know, I'm
if I'm awake, I won't wake him up. I wait till he wakes up on his own.
What time do you wake up?
Well, this morning it was 6:30.
Okay.
But then I look at the clock. I've got a lit up clock, and I keep looking every sort of quarter of an hour. and then suddenly I'm like 7:15, and I wake up and it's 7:55. And I think, oh, I've slept in, you know, tea. So she's waiting for a cup of tea.
Yeah.
So that's.
Oh, and what was it? Have you ever struggled to get up and get moving, get on the go?
Well, I struggle now, but not really, no, because when I was at football at Fulham, I had to be at the ground by 10 o'clock for training.
Okay.
So it was late. It was always I could lie in those days. You know, just have my breakfast in my digs, and then walk to the ground and training. So then when I started work, we lived in Ealing, and I had to get the bus about 6:30 in the morning, 7:15.
Oh.
And it used to take me from Ealing to Chessington over an hour in the bus. I didn't have a car at the start.
Tell me what you used to do, Joe.
Oh yeah, I used to smoke in those days. So we because we were getting a mortgage, Maureen said you've got to stop smoking. You know. Anyway,
does that affect the mortgage application?
No, we couldn't afford.
Of course,
couldn't afford it. So anyway, no, I had to go on the bus to work. So I decided to buy that one of those little machines that you make your own. Tobacco smoke.
Yeah.
But the trouble was, I used to make them in this little machine, and every time the bus went over You
can lose a bit of tobacco.
So I gave up.
That's
that.
a good way to make you give up.
Yeah, I did. I was going
Yeah.
to go and work all cigarettes on my truck clothes. So then I used to smoke small cigarettes.
That's when you gave up. Excuse me. You gave up smoking when we got our first morning.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
did
So
you?
I did give up smoking, which was hard. I used to smoke little cigars. I used to. It was funny because when I started at the factory,
Yeah.
being a footballer, I was always. We didn't go to do training in jeans and things like that. We wore jackets and ties really. So we went training and turned up and all that.
Yeah.
So I was all that when I went to this factory, I used to have me jacket. I bought a trilby with a feather in it, you know. Do you remember more? I used to go off and do on the bus, go to work, my trilby, my tie,
Yeah.
and I was always late because this factory in those days, you had to clock in, or the man in the gate,
right,
would sign you in, and I was always late. Quarter of an hour or half an hour,
Yeah.
and would stop me pay.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the director used to come to me nearly every day and say, Joe, please get on time. Please be on time tomorrow. Yes, sir, I would. Next morning, late. Late. It was only because I had to go on the bus.
Yeah.
Hey, now and a
Yeah.
quarter on the bus. I was always late, you know. And
You must have had the charm to get past them.
And when I went in the factory, and when I first went there, these guys were all in casual because they all worked on the shop floor. And,
Yeah.
and I turned up with my suit and tie on, thinking I think that was a company director or something.
Are there things that you look back on and that you wish you did more of, or less of?
Difficult.
I know what you should have done less of.
Not rude, is it?
No, it's going down the pub. Joseph Edgar.
Yeah, probably shouldn't have drank so much. That was I was trying to think of something funny I'd do or something.
This is probably another like philosophical question, but what do you hope for future generations?
Well, the first thing for everyone, but young people, is no fighting, no war, because the next war will be the end. You know, it won't be just ground troops; it'll be nuclear, won't it? You want peace, you know. So I'm against all these marches and stopping people going to work and hospitals getting held. You know, I mean, you should have protested about certain things, but it's got ridiculous. You know that protesting like this Palestinian business. They are terrorists.
Very vexed question, though.
I know.
There's faults on both sides.
I know. But they're like this Houthis, isn't it? They're stopping the ships going through the canal. You know, the Red Sea, or wherever it is. They're fighting, you know, democracy, and they're not voted in by the people, are they? The terrorists. And I'm a dead anyway. I don't like the thought of a war or people going to fight again, you know, for the children's sake, and it's not nice. We've been through that with the war. I mean, Maureen, this is quite. Maureen was born in London. Now the Germans bombed London nearly every night. It was so their school, the whole school, was evacuated by train from whichever station, King's Cross to Devon. Evacuee to go down and live with certain other people in Devon till the war was over. So they were shipped off on a train with a little gas mask, you know, that used to have, and go, a label, the names on there. Shipped off. Maureen was and three brothers went to Exmouth in Devon. So when all these, there must have been, could be There could be 5 children. There could be five. There could be 100 children on there, couldn't there, at least? On the train, and on the train, there could be 100 children or more getting off the train at the station on their own.
No.
Or will they have someone?
Shipped off to a hall, but we won't stand on the stage. And people would say, "I'll have that one and that one."
People would come and pick them out. And Maureen's mum had said to them, "Try and stay together. You both stay together."
Yeah.
So Maureen and her brother were picked.
It's just
You now. One day you have children, you wouldn't like
no, it seems like
it's
so
terrible. It's what they went through. That's the sort of things I wouldn't want to see happen again. But and they were just taking the people who some of them ill-treated the children, and Maureen did. Maureen was people took money and took all sorts. It was a horrible thought, Well, I didn't go through that, but certainly the Londoners did, because they were shipped into Kent and all different counties. And they didn't see the mum and dads for.
What do you miss from the past?
Miss my son, but our son, but I miss. I was young again, and I was playing football. I miss. Oh, it's difficult. We've had a fairly good life, as I talked to you about my army and the football career, but Maureen and I, we've had a super life. We've done everything. We've no regrets really. We never had mega money, but we still did things what we wanted to do. We've been get up type of people.
Yeah. And
we never sat around and been unhappy. That's the important thing. You don't sit around and say, "I wish I could do." You got to get up. It's like I tell people when they retire from work. Lots of my friends used to say, "I don't want to retire because what can I do? What will I do? And what will I do with my wages? I'm getting no wages." But it's not all about money. It's being happy in doing the things you want to do. You don't have to have mega money to go to the park, do you? Or be in the garden. So it's things like that used to annoy me, that we retired and we went away, we had nice holidays and various things. Be happy meeting people, and
does it feel like you've just blinked and you're here?
Yeah, it does. And it's time's flown over. We look back and we think, oh, 5 years ago we were on a ship, and it's gone. Everything's so quick. But one of the good things is we've done it. It's like me and my football. And I wish I'd achieved more in the football line. I know I had to pack in early through illness, but when I was there, I think I was good enough to go a lot further.
But the thing is, though, look at what you achieved off the back of it, and the family you created.
Oh yes, we have no regrets. We've had a great, we've done things that most families would envy, wouldn't they? Oh no, it wasn't.
And you hear people saying they've got a bucket list, and is there anything that springs to mind that you'd love to do before
before we pop our clogs?
Correct.
Yeah. Well, we aiming to go on holiday to Devon again. This hotel, that's our aim in a few months' time. But we've really quite contented, because there's nothing much we want, or
you have to accept the reality of your age.
Yeah, at age we can't do things we
would like to do, because we're just not well enough.
And
sorry to speak up for you.
No, but yes, because as your mother knows, I was keen gardener, as you know. Always out in the garden every day, which keeps you and it's relaxing. Now I sadly I can't do it, and it's frustrating. When you you don't. Some people hate gardening or anything like that, or doing things, but it's frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I've got happy memories in we've had lovely holidays. We've been all over, but also I was playing golf in my 70s.
Yeah, I remember seeing.
I used to, but I down in Playgate in various places and different courses, locals. But I used to go off and play. Wasn't great. I did improve, but it was getting out and it was walking, exercises,
Well, on that, I guess on that point, how if you ever, and this is a generalization, but that you would assume the vast majority of people experience this, but if you ever felt a bit lonely or down, how would you combat it?
Well, obviously I'd miss my wife or whatever it was, but I'm a bit of a loner anyway. That I can, even though I'm chatty and happy and all that, I like my own company. I can be happy, reading a book or something like that. So I don't get melancholy like that. Having said that, now if my wife goes to the hospital and she's away, or me, more than 2 hours, you fret and you get uptight. But no, I could. I mean, we've thought of that because a lot of people go in nursing homes, but they have to, and it's not very nice if you're in there and it's lonely. You're not speaking to anyone,
Yeah.
Because I always, Maureen's brother, who was a very nice bloke and all that, but he went in and he wouldn't speak to people. He was, and you've got to, haven't you, if you want to survive, or just chat to someone, whether it's about football or anything, And he was keen. He liked football, liked cricket, but he wouldn't sort of mix. And that's what you've got to do, haven't you?
Yeah.
It's like at work. If you don't get on with someone you're friendly or you're working with, you might as well give up because you'll be miserable, won't you?
Yeah. Final question. So, maybe we've already covered the topic, but I'll ask you it, and we'll kind of broaden on it as well. But what has been the most painful experience that you've gone through in life?
Two things. The first one, is losing Philip. And the second thing is me having to give up football, which I got through because I had a wonderful wife who looked after me and a mother. Without them, I would probably. I'm not saying when you said about death or suicide, but it was I was feeling right down. What can I do? So that was.
What did you learn from both of those things? Because this is going to be a question I ask every person that is on the podcast. That question, and then what did you learn from both of those experiences?
Well, I learned you got to be move on and be happy. Try to be happy with your present circumstances, and not get downhearted all the time. Even though
how do you do that?
It's very sad. Well, I think you got to be try to be cheerful and and try and act normal, because people get a bit not fed up, but talking, saying, "How are you today? Are you all right, Joe?" You don't like to be reminded all the time. You just got to knuckle down, and time is a great healer. I'm not saying it goes away, but you've just got to move on with the times and hope that things are going to get better.
Yeah,
I know it took us a long time, but we even now we still think about Philip. But
every night.
Yeah, that's been the worst thing. In really, there's nothing, and obviously, my football. What happened to me couldn't be held, but I was in the wrong era. Nowadays I would still be playing, but
I'd just like to throw in something. When Joe was told he had to give up football, he didn't discuss it. He kept it all. He acknowledges now that he suffers a little bit of anxiety. But he didn't make a big deal of it. It just, it was one of those things. We get on with it.
no,
But you never really
I
made a fuss about it, did you?
No, I'm not one to like some of them. Like the go around telling every Tom, Dick, and Harry. You know what I mean? That I thought, well, it was so painful, you know. He gave him the
Kept
talk.
it to himself.
I kept it to himself. I mean, Maureen's mum and dad were good, but I wouldn't want to broadcast it. I mean, it was my, you know, personal thing, you know.
Yeah, but do you think that ate you up inside?
Yes.
Well, it did. Yes, it did. It made me for a long time. You know, I didn't want to sort of communicate. I certainly didn't want to go back into football because I remember a few months afterwards, Jimmy Hill rang me, or we spoke on the phone, and he said something about, what are you doing or something? And I said, well, I'm looking for a job at the moment. But he says, well, why don't you come on a coaching at the FA? Because he obviously had lots of strings, you know. And I said, it was sort of mixed up character it was, you know. I said, no. I've got children now, Jimmy. Yeah, it was because I had the children. And I said, no, I've got children. I can't afford to do things like that to go away. I've got a family to look after. I'm looking for a job. Well, I had a job really, but I was trying. So that was hurtful, you know what I mean, to be that. But I certainly didn't go into the club or the players, and you know, didn't make. And you know, I still Johnny Haynes and Tosh and various players. I still saw different things, and you know, they never harped on about, you know, why ifs and buts. You know, just one of those things.
Would you say that? Did you overcome both of those experiences?
It took me a long time, but once we were married, once we got married and all that and things, we moved on, and I got a job, and I was concentrating on that. And I was, to be fair, I was really lucky that I got a good job, and I was happy, you know, and being part of that family, and the young football team, and the factory, and the golf, and all sorts of things. And Maureen had a good firm. She had a good social life in the firm. She liked the work. She enjoyed going to work. So we were quite compatible in that sort of sense, you know, which is important. You know, some people, some wives don't do this and don't do that and wish they did. And the blokes are bogged down by a boring job, which mine was never, because I was involved. I mean, Maureen said I was a progress chaser. Do you know what a progress chaser is?
Is it some kind of sales?
Yeah, well, I used to look after all the the parts and follow them around the factory and make sure they got their blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Which isn't, it wasn't important, but to me, I enjoyed doing it. I loved it. And I got to a point where they used to have the board meetings or meetings with the directors in there, and someone would say, "How is this machine getting on?" And someone would say, "No, I don't really know. I don't think it's doing very well." Well, Joe Hall will know. And I was like an underling, and they sent for me in the boardroom. Can you bring your list? And I'd go in the boardroom and say, "Yeah, oh yes, Mr. Mollard, it's blah blah blah."
Yeah.
Well done.
So
And
you liked feeling useful.
So I was, you know, even though it wasn't and once the director, the works director, the second in command, sent for me. He says, "I'm fed up." The salespeople said, "Get Joe Hall, he'll know." He says, "I'm going to give you a rise."
Oh,
and that was the only time from the director gave me a pay rise. It's incredible, you know.
Yeah.
So I was doing a job. It wasn't the be all and all, but to me, I loved doing it, and it was important in a way, even though it was on the lower.
100%.
And I got so fed up because they had a weight system in the factory. They're like the lower ones got someone in the engineers and top and thing.
Oh, okay.
And I like the works manager, and I think and I used to keep pestering him about going on the staff. If you're on the staff, you got sick pay, don't you?
Yeah.
Holiday, all sorts of things. You got all the perks, see. And I wasn't. And I kept nagging. And I'm sure that he used to dodge me in the factory because he said, "Oh, here he comes again." You know? I'd say, "Mr. Chambers, what about this?" Till one day he did. He got me, and I was put on the staff and everything, but I persevered. And in fact, I said to him, one of my friends at Ealing was moving to Brighton. And Ken Hemming, he was moving to Brighton. And he said, "Why don't you come down to Brighton? I'm buying a place down there. Why don't you come and live near us?" So anyway, said to the works manager, I said, I said to him, what about this? No, Joe, you can't. I said, well, I've had an offer. My friend's moving to Brighton, and he wants me to go with him. And I'm,
Yeah.
And he knew that what I was doing
Yeah.
in that company with. He said,
Was
"Oh, we
important.
don't want to lose." No. I said, "Well, if I don't get what I wanted, and I got it,
Good negotiation.
But, yeah, exactly. So
Perseverance and
I got it.
negotiation.
Yeah. So it's all how you handle things,
Yeah. Oh, well.
But I enjoyed it.
What's that?
I
Just over
had
2
a wonderful.
hours.
When I think about the footballers I played with, a lot of them didn't achieve. I did a lot of things that they were never.
What did you say, Kim?
I said we've done just over 2 hours.
It's 3:10.
Yeah, I know.
And what time did you get here? 12:30.
Oh, it's been recording for just over 2 hours.
Oh, I beg your
Yeah.
pardon.
You said to me half an hour. I was
Yeah, it felt like half an hour.
Well, I think it was your mum. I'll tell her, yeah.
Thank you.
That's done. Thank you.
No, don't be silly.
Well, let us know when it goes live, because this